The story of my life is a long, winding journey filled with triumphs, tragedies, and the unfathomable will to survive. I am Odysseus, king of Ithaca, the man who traveled far and wide after the fall of Troy, seeking to return home. My tale is not just of one man, but of 1,000 different faces I wore, 1,000 battles I fought, and 1,000 miles of sea I traversed. It began long before my journey home, with the war at Troy. The gods had woven their webs, and men found themselves entangled in their designs. I did not wish to leave my peaceful home, my wife, Penelope, and my infant son, Telemachus. But fate called me to the great war, and I sailed with my fellow kings and warriors, leaving the green hills of Ithaca behind. At Troy, the battle raged for 10 long years. Heroes on both sides fell, and it seemed as though the gods themselves toyed with our fates, deciding who would live or die. I was not the mightiest warrior, like Achilles, or as swift as Ajax, but I was known for my wit, and it was that wit that won the war. After Achilles fell, and the tide of battle turned against us, it was I who conceived the idea of the wooden horse, the Trojan horse. We built a massive wooden horse, hollow inside, and filled it with our finest warriors. We left it on the shores of Troy and sailed away, making it appear as though we had given up. The Trojans, thinking it a gift, brought it within their walls. That night, we emerged from the horse, opened the gates for the rest of our army, and destroyed the city. The flames of Troy lit up the night sky, marking the end of one war and, unbeknownst to me, the beginning of another. The journey home should have been swift, but the gods had other plans for me. Our fleet set sail from Troy, and I thought of nothing but the embrace of my wife and the laughter of my son. But Poseidon, god of the sea, had taken offense to my role in the war and sought to make my voyage a torment. Our first stop was the land of the Cyclades, where my men, in their arrogance, plundered the city. The Cyclades retaliated, and we barely escaped with our lives. We next encountered the land of the lotus eaters, where my crew, seduced by the sweet fruit, forgot their homes and wanted to remain forever in a dreamlike state. I had to drag them back to the ships, but our greatest challenge was yet to come. We landed on the island of the Cyclopes, where we encountered Polyphemus, the giant, one-eyed son of Poseidon. Trapped in his cave, we were helpless as he devoured my men, 2 at a time. But I could not let my crew perish. I devised a plan. I told him my name was a nobody and gave him wine to drink. When he was drunk and sleeping, I drove a sharpened stake into his eye, blinding him. As he howled in pain, we escaped by clinging to the bellies of his sheep. When he called for help, he told the other Cyclopes that nobody was attacking him, and so they left him alone. But as we sailed away, I could not resist shouting my true name back at him. That was my pride speaking, a foolish mistake. Polyphemus called upon his father, Poseidon, to curse me, and so began my endless wandering across the seas. Our next encounter was with Aeolus, the god of the winds, who gave me a bag containing all the winds, except for the gentle west wind that would guide us home. For 9 days and nights, I sailed, Ithaca on the horizon, but my men, thinking I was hiding treasure, opened the bag, and the winds were unleashed, blowing us back across the sea. We landed on the island of Circe, a sorceress who turned my men into swine. With the help of Hermes, I resisted her magic, and she became my ally. We stayed with her for a year, forgetting our mission to return home. But eventually, I remembered Ithaca and set sail once more, this time with Circe's advice to guide me. She warned me of the sirens, whose song lured men to their deaths. I had my men plug their ears with beeswax, but I, curious to hear their voices, had myself tied to the mast. Their song was irresistible, promising knowledge and pleasure, but my crew, true to their orders, ignored my pleas and rowed us past. Next, we had to pass between Scylla, a 6-headed monster, and Charybdis, a whirlpool that swallowed the sea. There was no avoiding loss. Scylla snatched 6 of my men from the deck. Their screams haunt me still. Our greatest folly came on the island of the sun, where my starving men, against my orders, slaughtered the sacred cattle of the sun god Helios. In his rage, Helios demanded vengeance, and Zeus obliged. A great storm sank my ship, and I was the only survivor, drifting for days until I washed ashore on the island of Calypso. For 7 years, I remained her prisoner. Calypso loved me and offered me immortality if I would stay with her. But my heart yearned for home, for Penelope. The gods finally took pity on me, and Hermes ordered Calypso to release me. She gave me a raft, and I set sail once more. After so many trials, I washed ashore in the land of the Phaeacians, who took pity on me and helped me finally reach Ithaca. But my trials were not over. In my absence, suitors had overrun my home, seeking to marry Penelope and take my throne. Disguised as a beggar, I entered my own house, unrecognized. My faithful dog, Argos, who had waited for me for 20 long years, recognized me, wagging his tail once before he died. With the help of my son Telemachus, I devised a plan to rid my home of the suitors. Penelope had devised her own clever ruse, promising to choose a suitor once she finished weaving a shroud, but each night she unraveled her work. The time for tricks had passed. She set an impossible task for the suitors, to string my great bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axes. One by one, they failed. But when I, still disguised, took the bow, I strung it with ease and shot the arrow true. I revealed myself then, and with Telemachus at my side, we slaughtered the suitors. Peace returned to my household, and at last, I embraced Penelope. The gods, for once, had granted me rest. Though I was finally home, my journey was not yet complete. The seer Tiresias had foretold that I would journey once more, this time inland, to a place where the people knew nothing of the sea. There, I would plant an oar in the ground as a sign of peace between those who live by the sea and those who live by the earth. My life has been one of endless adventure, but now I seek peace, the quiet of Ithaca, and the simple joys of home. I have seen the wrath of gods and the folly of men. I have wandered the earth and sailed the seas, but in the end, all my trials have led me back to where I began. Home, to my family, to Ithaca. This is my story, the story of Odysseus, the man who was never defeated, not by gods, nor monsters, nor fate itself.